Welcome back, Jakl fans. We are here. Obviously, we are one person short, but I've replaced him with James here. James, so glad you could join me. We're going to be discussing some important factors going into the season, including the new schedule, as well as our signings during this offseason. Our roster is pretty close to being finalized from what I could tell. And then we've got some questions still. And then we've got events coming up. So, James, why don't you get us started? Maybe give your a little introduction. Who is James?
Who am I and why am I here? Yeah, so end of last season, I reached out to our prior president and to some of the guys, yourself and Monty and some of the others, and kind of just said I wanted to have a greater impact on the Jakl Den and increasing the fan base and increasing the experience and the connection to the team. And over the last few months of working with you guys on little things here and there, the social media, the website, and then being involved with some of the conversations has just been enlightening and understanding how everything comes together. And then looking at, last month or so when we had somebody left the group. We won't put the details on that, but that opened up a spot. Apparently, in the middle of the night, people decided to take a vote when I was sleeping as to who was going to be the interim president. So that came down to me, which I'm absolutely happy to do and happy to help. Myself, I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, went to Highland High School, actually knew Coach Larry Gelwicks, who really instilled the love of rugby in me. That school, our rugby team was more famous than our football team. Grew an infatuation with the New Zealand All Blacks out of that. Followed them quite a bit on social medias and YouTube and watching games. Once I found out that we had a team here, had to be a part of it, had to go out and watch the games. Have enjoyed having season tickets and enjoyed meeting all the players. And enjoyed seeing all the different connections, especially finding out like last season, Danny Christensen's uncle it was Larry Gelwicks, the coach that really got me inspired in this. So seeing all those connections and how things come together, it's really been a lot of fun. So I took it on as interim and actually stepped up at our last week and kind of said I'm willing to keep that title through this season.
Yes.
And we'll see how things pan out. If I'm doing things in the right direction that the Den wants, then I'll stay on. If not, then I'll work more on the operations and let somebody with a prettier face take over the role. So, happy to be here, happy to help. Let me know what I can do. And like Rick said, we got a lot of good information for you guys coming up.
Yeah, and we've got 3 new members who we were not going to introduce them today, so we will hold off on that. But we have 3 new members of the executive committee that will be helping us this season with a variety of different activities that every year we're trying to increase the things that we're doing, whether it's in the community or online or developing different ways to connect with the fans, connect with the players, and hopefully give a better experience for Jakl Den members. So very exciting. We will introduce them sometime in the near future. But today our focus is on preseason happenings. Obviously, there's a lot been going on. If you have not been following rugby heavily on socials, you're unaware that we lost 2 teams during this offseason, and 1 team moved. So the Rugby ATL Rattlers, as they were lovingly called, are now going to be in Los Angeles. We have yet to get a logo or a name. But we do know that they are playing. They are on the schedule as Los Angeles. So maybe they're just Los Angeles RFC, part due. I believe there's already a Los Angeles RFC. So we'll see how that works out. But there is a Los Angeles team, which used to be Rugby ATL. Some of the players have gone over. A lot of the players are coming from what I understand are the Tel Aviv Heat team. That's a traveling squad internationally. And then we have a new team out of Miami, the Miami Sharks. They've been doing quite a bit of socials since they were introduced. They've done a good job of introducing themselves to at least to current MLR fans. I don't know about local and non-rugby fans in the Miami area. or
They
South
do
Florida
seem to
area.
be doing a good deal in South Florida, and also it seems like reaching out to some of uh, the the Atlantic Islander areas down there to try to get some
Okay.
attention going. So that's very cool to
Like
see. And then
Caribbean and Key West and those sorts of things. That's
exactly,
good.
exactly.
Yeah.
And their first signing, unfortunately, fortunate for them, not for us, was our home team favorite. They stole Tucci from us, but
Yeah. Alex Tucci. Yep.
hopefully he's doing well down there. I know he's really enjoying it.
Yeah, he loves that area, but he's got family down there, I believe. So that's
Yeah,
not kind of an unusual move for them to make, at least to get somebody stable that's a USA Canadian eligible player. Get him down there. You got somebody you can slot in at prop anytime you want.
yeah. And they've been
Uh,
doing a ton of heats and combines and training activities down there for the local groups. So it's been really fun to watch them start up.
So at least that's the good news. The bad news is we lost Toronto and New York. Good news is there was a player dispersal draft. I do have those names of the players who drafted. Can't really confirm whether they are on the team or not because there's a 10-day period after that draft where they have to negotiate a contract or they become a free agent. So we'll see if those players actually end up joining us or not. Several players have already been traded out of that draft. So, for example, Nate Augsburger was drafted by New Orleans. He had actually signed a contract with Rugby New York, or Iron Workers, as they're called, or were called, I should say.
Yeah.
And so he's actually going to be in Chicago this year. So he was drafted by NOLA, but then traded for cash and something else. We'll see what the details come out on that are. So that's kind of a quick summary of the offseason. So two teams folding, Toronto Arrows and New York Ironworkers, or Rugby New York, or Rooney, or whatever version you've heard of. They have folded. Would not be surprised to see New York come back. Not sure about Toronto. There's many issues within Canadian rugby. So there may be some things that need to be cleaned up at a higher level before they decide to re-enter one of the professional leagues in the Americas. So let's get to the signings for Dallas because there were some. Let's start off by just saying this was a big summer of re-signings for the Jackals, which I think for most of us, despite the record last year, I think we liked seeing that. Looks like there'll be some real continuity between last year and this year, which did not exist between year one and year two.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely have some big names that are coming back. Some of the big players that the fans really liked and that we liked seeing on the field. And yeah, as far as that unit cohesion, it's going to be excellent to see a lot of the senior seasoned players who have been with the Jackals for the last 2 years come back again. So seeing some of these names on here is fantastic to be able to have those come back and kind of bring in the new names as part of the family and really work on getting that great on-field family communication and movement going.
Yeah, so the biggest signing, I think, was Ben Fry, 25-year-old flanker from Dragons. He decided to come play for the Jackals over playing in the English Championship, which is the level below the Premiership. So second level, high level rugby. Some of the top teams in that division over there are quite good. Ealing Trailfinders, for example, Coventry. So there's some really good competition at that level. So for him to decide to come here over that, I think speaks highly of what the Jackals are trying to do. I think the last 2 years there's been more of a, we're not necessarily here to compete quite yet. We're trying to build an organization, build a process, and I think the biggest issue we've had with that is we've known there's going to be a Dallas team for 9 years or whatever it's been since they announced MLR.
Yeah.
And to finally get a team and it's like, okay, and we're bad. COVID hurt us a lot. But it hurt everybody. So finally, we're getting some continuity, bringing back a lot of players last year that were really good. We've lost a few. The biggest announcements were our backup fly half and starting flanker. Well, our starting flanker Conrad Aurora going to Italy, and then following him was our backup fly half, which now my mind is completely blanked on his name. But he played quite a bit because Elias ended up getting injured.
Mm-hmm.
He even played some fullback. Alejandro, I'm totally spacing on his last name. I apologize for that. But he was quite good. And he was a young kid. He'd just come from Thomas More, which we've got another Thomas More player coming up. Hopefully get some playing time. Matias Karamudi. So we'll see what happens there. Alejandro Torres. Figured it out. Took my brain a few minutes to get it correct. Another big signing. Not signing, but we traded for Ronan Foley, flanker from Seattle, also 25 years old. Kind of picture him more as an 8-man. We'll see how that works out. There's some questions at 8 right now. There's not been news of Boyson returning, so there's been no news of him resigning. Obviously, he was really, really important to us defensively and offensively. Does Ben Fry scoot over? Does Foley scoot over? I think Fry is more of a flanker than Foley. Foley can play quite a bit of 8. I think that's a question position right now. The other flanker positions, I think we have quite a bit of depth, but that 8-man is a question. We did get 2 players from Rugby ATL. When they decided to move, a lot of the players were allowed to make the decision to try and find another team or move with the team to LA. Obviously, California is very expensive. LA in particular. LA and San Francisco, but LA is very expensive. And so some of these players, maybe just like, I don't want to go play for the same amount of money over there where I'm going to be living on scraps versus coming to Texas or staying in Florida or something like that, where your money probably goes a little bit further. So we got a couple of players, Evan Conlon, scrum half, who actually played Woodlands youth rugby, and I think at even the men's level before going to Rugby ATL, and Damon Torres, who also is a Texan, believe also played Woodlands. So a couple of Texans coming back to Texas, and
that could be your answer right there as to why they didn't ship off to LA.
Yeah, I think the comfortability of moving back over here was probably highly influential for them. Then we had some big signings that maybe names that people wouldn't necessarily recognize, but Connor Winchester, fly half, who's very capable. I believe he is from Australia. I think there's some positions where we're going to have a lot of depth, and I'm not sure who gets to start. I would be very surprised if the guys who started at fly half and 2 centers this last year aren't the starters at those positions. But you don't know what happens in preseason. So once they get going in January, we'll see how things shake out. But a very good fly half, younger player. Brock Gallagher, scrum half, Canadian. Eligibility to Canada. He's been playing U20s, U23. Good young player. Lots of 7s, and he's quite a good 7s player. Lance Finumuai, and I'm probably just butchering that name, and I apologize to him. He's a front rower. He was actually playing back row quite a bit at the college level, and moved to front row as a hooker. And then it looks like there's a chance that he may end up playing prop, is what I've heard. So not 100% sure where he'll play. He's a much more experienced hooker than anything else, but we'll see how that shakes out. So I just put front row for the time being. Marcel Mueller, Cheetah's center, big kid. I think he's played on the wing, but I see him more of a center. We might just see him as a big wing. We haven't seen really a big wing gig yet with the Jackals. So it would be nice to have that size outside, but I have him as a center at the time being. And then Ani Mateto, who has been around Dallas for quite a while. He's been playing with the Reds. He was on contract with NOLA Gold. So a good young but experienced player. I think could slot in and start at fullback, but I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody else there to start the season. So do you want to go through the guys that, because we were talking about, there's a lot of question marks right now on the roster in terms of guys that were on the team last year, have not signed elsewhere.
Yeah.
And we don't know anything right now.
Yeah. There are a lot of great names coming in, but like I said, there are some of these names that we got so used to the last 2 years that with all the publicity going to the shifting of teams, the new teams starting up, the teams folding, the dispersion, the drafts, all of that, there are some names that we just don't know. Now, maybe some of these guys are still under contract, so it's not worth saying one way or the other, but we just haven't heard much. Like, I mean, there's one of my favorites on here is Campbell Johnstone. He's always got a strong place for me, being the first guy to score a try with the Jackals in our first season, gave us the first points on the board, and did fantastic last year as well. But we just haven't heard anything about him, whether or not he's coming back or if he's going somewhere else or taking time off. But some others on here, Luis Satama, Marcos Moroni, Adrian Boyson, Medini, Augenbog. I mean, all really strong names that got a lot of pitch time last season, that hope they're coming back, hope they're still a part of the group. But just...
We've heard nothing. We've heard nothing from any sources, whether within the organization or outside the organization. It's just been quiet on those players for so far this preseason.
Hopefully no news is good news, but we would like to kind of get this nudge of like, hey, these guys are still around.
Yeah, and speaking of that, before we get to the roster, this roster was put together by Santi, who's been the GM since I would say about this time last year, maybe a little bit earlier when they signed him. And we're understanding that there's maybe question marks about who the GM is going into the season. But it looks like whether he's the GM going into the season or not, the squad is maintained. And I think that's a real sign that the coaching staff, one, likes these players, and two, thinks we can win with this group, and three, that the players, are connected now to the city, connected to the fans, and, the GM, whether he's here or not, hasn't affected that. So, to me, that's a good sign. So let's quickly run through the current roster. We won't spend too much time on this, but these are the confirmed players coming in to this season. They've been signed, they've been traded for, and they've been drafted. So I won't say which is which, but we understand they're all on the roster for 24. That's Liam Murray, Joaquin Horchata, Nicholas Rival-Pitt, and Connor Grindle at loosehead, Dwald Kotza. And now, whether they play loosehead, tight head, I've put the players in a position that in the past they've spent most of their career, or most recently that's what they've been playing. Mm-hmm. So there's a little bit of guessing game right now, because they typically, when they announce them, they're announcing them as a prop or a hooker. Well, hooker is hooker, but prop or a back rower or a center. We don't know if they're going to play inside center, outside center, so on. So at hooker, Dwal Kotza or Dewey, Connor Robinson, Lance Fenua-Moai, Thomas Beckerman is a question mark. He was signed last year. Never saw him. I don't think he made it here. Don't know. Okay. Don't know what the situation was. At tight head, Juan Pablo Zeiss, JP. Yep. Big sign. When they announced that, I was like, oh, that, I think, and part of that was JP. His signing to me meant we've got a lot of these Argentinians are probably coming back, because I really think he is very much a leader in that respect, and in terms of that community coming in, and connecting to MLR, connecting to the fans, everything. As good as he is in the scrum, I think him in the clubhouse is a big difference for this team.
I think he and Vara. I mean, with those two, are phenomenal. They're a powerhouse.
And losing Rora was tough, but I think, like you said, Vara was so good last year. I think he can also be a leader in that clubhouse, and he did step up quite a bit in terms of leadership last year. So very exciting to see those two guys re-signed early in the process. I think some of the re-signings were announced very properly. It was just announced Kyle Stees is re-signed. I think we kind of knew he was coming back. Agenbog, as we mentioned, we're unsure. Not sure what's happening right now. And he's actually Namibia eligible because he went and trained with them before the World Cup. I don't think he made the World Cup side. He did not get a cap. So don't know what his status is. Locke, I think we're still really light at Locke. There's got to be a signing, or maybe somebody is changing positions that we're unaware of. Right now, we've got Sam Gulla and Lucas Barr. We don't know. Matt Gordon's coming back. He was on the team this last year. He had an injury. Did play a little bit, though. And then Big Mike, Michele Naramatoga. I probably butchered that. I apologize to him. He's a local guy. He's been around Texas forever. You can probably find him online as the Fijian Godzilla. That's his nickname. So Locke, I think we're still light. Like there's a player or two missing there. We've got a lot of back rowers, so I'm not sure if like one of those guys is going to slot in.
But I think on something like that, I mean, Gola has done so. I mean, you can't say he wasn't phenomenal when he was picked as the rookie of the year last year.
Yeah.
And the city of Arlington,
announced
the Sam Gola Day.
Yeah, it's wild.
You know, I mean, so he's definitely been fantastic. And like you said, I mean, I don't want anybody to overshadow that and like pull somebody in, but at the same time, we need somebody there in case the guy needs a break.
Yeah. And I think, you know, the guys that we've got behind are serviceable, but that's the area that wasn't improved upon this offseason from what I can tell. So I agree. They've got to do something there. And Gola actually with the Eagles has been playing quite a bit of flanker, which is what we all expected. He would come in and play at 6. So I don't know. Like it's very clear to me based on the roster, the way it's currently made up, that he's going to continue at lock and fine. But it would be really great to find somebody to come in and he can move to flanker if need be. At 6, I've got Vara, Geronimo Gomez Vara, Ronnie McElliott, who's a draft pick, and Cam Nelson, who we saw a little bit of last year, and I thought he was quite good. You know, he's a USA eligible player. Is he going to get enough time to make it worthwhile? I don't know. I wonder if, you know, getting more time with Hawks would be valuable. I really love the Hawks program Ideal. You know, it's bringing a lot of these MLR kids who are they're not going to get minutes. It's kind of like G League. You put them all together and have them go play in some international competition, things like that. And it also builds together that, you know, it's guys who are under 23 years old trying to build some camaraderie and continuity through the Eagles, right? So these guys, theoretically, we're going to, you know, push them up to the Eagles. And then you spice in guys that are all-stars in MLR, players from overseas that are playing in Europe or whatever, or even, you know, Pacific. So we'll see. I'd like to see him get more time, but I just find it hard based on how much depth we have in the back row that's going to happen. Damon Torres at 7 with the new draft pick, Marquez Jason Uluwao. At 8, I've got Ben Fry, which you could move over to 7. But the problem is you got to start him, so maybe he starts over Torres. Torres is good. Here's the problem. You got Vara, Torres, Ben Fry, Ronan Foley. Maybe you see something like Vara, Fry, and Foley. We just don't know yet. And there's just so much depth here. And then Bramer Murray, we just got in the draft. We don't know Boyson. Boyson comes back. He's obviously the slide in at 8. So, and that's the problem is Boyson comes back. We have more than enough depth in the back row, which is very nice. That's a good thing to have. 9, Pedro Imhoff's coming back, which is great. Wish he would convince his brother Juan to come in. That would be really nice. Then Evan Conlon, Brock Gallagher, and then Naz Valentini if he's returning. I haven't heard anything about him. At 10, Martin Elias. I thought he was good when healthy last year, and I thought he grew into it. I think at first there was a lot of continuity issues with our back line, and I thought it got much, much better as the season went on. And I think with a full preseason with these guys, and having last season to learn, I think it should look a lot better. It should look a lot better. Behind him, Connor Winchester and Matthias Karamoudi. If Karamoudi plays the way Torres played, coming out of Thomas More, we've got ourselves, I think a very reasonably priced future all-star. I mean, maybe Torres is just, 1 in a million in terms of that. I was blindsided by how good Torres played when Elias went down. So anyway, we'll see what happens with Karamoudi, but excited to see what he's got for us.
Yeah.
At 12, Thomas Kubia, who came in and wow, just a huge difference in the back line. I think our biggest problem last year was before he got here, there wasn't a whole lot of breaking the gain line before getting the ball out wide.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of getting tackled behind the line or just trying to swing it out wide because we weren't going to be able to, bust it up the middle. He broke the line at least 75% of the time that he got the ball. And if we can continue doing that, I think we're going to create more holes for our outside guys to get more meterage as we, try and play on their side of the pitch, which we struggled with sometimes last year. So him and then Manuel Covella, is he going to play? He's going to come up and he's going to play behind Kubia because Covella comes with his own, host of experience and expertise. I think is quite a good player. Yeah. I don't know. And then you got Mitch Richardson. Like he's going to sit behind those two. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a position change for Mitch Richardson. We'll see, but I mean, he's played center, mostly 13. But then, we've got Campbell Johnstone, Masvida Niamura sorry, Zimbabwean name, not my expertise. Then at 13, Thomas Milanos, who was great. Maybe he's sitting behind somebody. Nick Ben, who's coming over from Toronto during the dispersal draft. JP Aguirre. We haven't heard anything on him if he's coming back. Medina, same thing with him. Then at the wings, Aaron Gray, I have him penciled in at 14. I mean, don't really know right now because we've got Jojo Tukasuva and Marcel Mueller at 11. I think we're going to see a mix of wings this year. Ciaran Breen also coming in from Toronto in the dispersal draft. Kyle Fulton, is he back with the team? Is he going to continue with Hawks? Don't know. And then 14 with Aaron Gray, Noah Wright, who was one of the draft picks this year, and Luis Atama, who we haven't heard anything of. Yeah. 15 is a big question mark. We've got some guys there. Olvera plays quite a bit of 15s as a little bit older draft pick from BYU. Tidwell, who's definitely a 15, but could fit somewhere else. And Andy Mateto, who was just drafted. And then this is a spot where do you move Mitch Richardson to 15? There's another guy, South African, who is rumored to be joining the team, but I can't confirm. He's a 15 and 10. So we've got a plethora of players. I think it's just going to be finding the right mix. And obviously we're very early in that process. But just to give you an idea, the roster is fairly full. We got 40 players. Let me pull up real quick where they are all from.
I think while you're looking at that, one thing I want to say that we definitely have a lot of people there, and I think it's pretty standard in playing 15s to have a team size in the 40s or closing in on
High
50 players.
30s, low 40s is pretty typical.
So you're going to have people there that are going to sit down. And what I worry about, and I'd like to find out more in this from what goes on in the preseason. But it seemed like last year we saw the exact same 15 players on the pitch every single game, and we saw there were maybe 2 or 3 from the sidelines, from the reserves that ever came in. We may have seen Tucci for 15, 20 minutes of the season. We may have seen Tidwell for a little bit. There was a point in time when Danny Christensen, very little bit, but we saw the same players in there. So what I really want to find out, what I want to make sure of is, at least in the preseason and the training, are we really putting all these people in the different positions to find out who fits best? And maybe these people that we've had in the same position for the last 2 years do fantastic in a different position, and maybe somebody new does better in there. And are we changing things around and really fitting in the best puzzle piece?
And I think one of the things that can add to that, James, is having a development side / practice squad side, right?
Yeah.
Where we don't have that. Houston's using that to, looks like good value for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Seattle uses their, I think it's the Saracens, or they're not called Saracens, Seattle RFC or whatever they're calling themselves now. Used to be Saracens. They use them quite well for that. San Diego's got their own, they don't call them Legion, they're called something else. New England's got their own teams that they use, mostly for youth, but it's also an opportunity for players to get playing time, right? And we don't have that right now. So they've talked about having a development side. They're having trainings, but they're not playing anybody. And a lot of the kids who were drafted the last couple of years were shipped off with the Hawks. So I think there were 5 or 6 kids that were Jackals draft picks that were playing Hawks, which is good for them. But we should have a development side. We've got to find ways to get these players time. Some of them have been playing with the Reds and Quins, but it's not like the Reds and Quins are using the same verbiage, the same play set as the Jackals. So, how is that working? I don't know if that's working particularly well. I think in the end, you've got to have your own development side. I think Houston's doing it the right way. I think a lot of the clubs are doing it the right way. You realize after a while, it's good to use the D1 clubs, especially, hey, you can find an Andy Mateto playing with the Reds. There's, a few guys around. They brought up a few guys a year before that were Quins and Reds and Grand Prairie players. You can find them, but you shouldn't be plugging, your players that you want to develop onto those teams, expecting that they're going to end up being able to play during your season at all. If you're putting them on those teams, they're staying there for the entire season, because they may be training with you, but if they're only getting game time with the other players, they're not learning to play with teammates. And they're not learning the same verbiage, all that I've already discussed. So I just find it very difficult to think that, we're going to go much longer without a development side. And I agree. They've got to do it. It's got to happen. Yeah. So hopefully it will. They keep talking about it, and they have practices, and they've had tryouts and things, but we have yet to see a game with those players. So until they have a game, until they have a match on a schedule, then I will just say that it's not effective right now.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
So that really covers it. The totals by country: USA, there are 22 players; Canada, 9 players; Argentina, 13; 2 from Namibia; 1 from South Africa; 1 from Zimbabwe; 1 from Wales; and 1 from Australia. So no matter what people say about this is all Argentinians, we have almost double the number of USA players as Argentinians, and we have 9 Canadians. So we're not blowing it out of proportion. The problem that I have is that we have 13 Argentinians, which are all basically starters.
Yeah.
And so you're only allowed to play 11 international slot players on your 23 for any given weekend. So out of those 23 players, you've got to have 12 that are either American eligible or Canadian eligible players. And so your problem is, do we just put them all on the bench? So you've got 8 Americans and Canadians on the bench, which is what the Jackals basically did last year. Or do you, find other ways to mix them into the team? And I think the biggest issue last year was communication. I understood from multiple players that it was they had to have a translator in some meetings to get the meetings through. So there's going to be
very difficult
communication issues when you have coaches that all speak Spanish fluently and maybe even Italian fluently, but don't speak English fluently. They speak enough to get by, but not fluently enough to have an easy to understand meeting or easy to understand verbiage on the field. So that's another hurdle that this team has to be able to get over this year, I think. And then, you've got 22 USA eligible players. Most of them are playing Hawks or they're playing development rugby. It's a lot of young guys that have been drafted, right? We've had a lot of draft picks the last couple of years. So we've got a lot of guys who are development players. We have very few who are, men's senior level rugby players.
Mm-hmm.
So the future looks good. If you say we keep all these draft picks, right, and we've signed them to long-term contracts, in 5-6 years, you've got a very good group of young American and Canadian players. But are we going to keep them? The problem is we're in this middle zone of we're losing, so we need to try and win more, which means more internationals, better internationals. That means more money. It means less money for USA and Canadian eligible players, which means more draft picks of Canadian and USA eligible players, which means players that aren't quite ready, most of them, to play at this level. So that's the struggle we're in right now. So we'll see how it feeds out. We've got the number of USA and Canadian players. The problem is, can we get them into matches? Can we get them game time? Yeah. So I love the roster. I love that we're bringing back a lot of the guys. I love that they want to come back. That feels good as a fan, especially with how difficult the last 2 years have been, that our players want to be here. That's an excellent sign. So I'm not going to throw any more of my time at the roster for right now. You can see it up on the Facebook group. It's posted. Yep. You can walk through it whenever you want. Think about what potential starting rosters we might be looking at for next year. So let's get into the schedule.
The schedule it was finally out.
Just released. Finally. So, the biggest disappointment looking through the schedule, we don't get to go to LA. I'm disappointed. I got family out there. I would love to go out to LA, have a cheap stay, go watch the match. It will be at Carson, the Carson Stadium, Dignity Health Stadium, I believe at LAFC. I'll confirm that here in a second. We are not going to get to go there, unfortunately, but we are going to get to go to Miami.
Yep.
And not only are we going to Miami, we get to play them at home. So we've got a home match versus Miami, the first match of the year for us, which will be week 2. So we get a bye in week 1. Nice preseason to get these guys together. Weather should be nice. It'll be a Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. start on March 10th. I think that's perfect. And we've talked about, we don't want Sunday games. Well, the reason we don't want Sunday games, we don't want a 7 p.m. start. We got school the next morning. Yeah, that's why we don't want a Sunday game. Sunday at 3 is a sweet spot. You can get all your stuff done in the morning. We're past football season. We got the game. You come home, eat dinner, get the kids tucked into bed, ready for school the next day. Hopefully the weather's nice. Theoretically, 3 p.m. in March should be good. As long as it's not raining. Should be good. So I'm excited about that. I think that's a great opportunity to see a new team, new brand. Get out there. They've got some huge signings, so getting to see some of those players out there. I believe Nicholas Sanchez will not be there, unfortunately. It looks like he is signed to play in Japan. But outside of that, they have a ton of players who just played in the World Cup. Yeah. So and a bunch of South Americans. So there's going to be a lot of Spanish on the field.
I think, I'm super excited for this one for a couple reasons. It's bringing back, like I said, it's bringing back Tucci for the first game of the season. He'll be back. Watching their socials, they've got a fantastic front staff, ops team. I'm really excited to see how they do on the pitch. Like you said, great weather. And I think one of the cool things about starting off with a Sunday early afternoon game, this is where we as the Den do our part collectively to fill those seats. It couldn't be a more perfect day and time. You finish church, you finish lunch, you grab your buddies. What do you guys want to do? Why don't you come with me and check out rugby?
Tailgate.
Go out Saturday, you party with your buddies. You say, hey, what are we doing Sunday? Well, the only plan is to wear out the hangover. Do it when you
start drinking early.
Hair of the dog, come out, tailgate, and come watch a game with us. Like, I mean, this isn't Saturday night where you're ruining date night or looking for kids stuff or looking for daycare for the kids. I mean, 3 p.m. I'm going to bring my kids. They're going to be there with me. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
Bring them along. It's a family event. Have them watch the team. Have them meet the team. Have them meet Jax. I mean, this couldn't be a better day of the week, date, time of day to start off. And this could really be the one where we here beat San Diego for largest number of fans. Because I think they took it last year.
Yes.
For opener. I think we could do it this year with this game for this reason. So that's really good.
We got to everybody bring a friend, get the season start off on the right foot. Second game, we will be away, but we're not very far away. We will be going to Houston. We are very much hoping that we will be able to organize a Jakl Club travel group to go down to that game and enjoy it together. We're working with the Jackals to actually get something done for that. That will be Saturday, March 16th at 7 p.m. So it's a night game. Plenty of time to travel down, maybe get some lunch, get some dinner, then head to the game. It's pretty easily accessible stadium. It's a fun stadium to see a game in. Might be a little chilly and probably humid in March, but that's fine. We're going to have a good time. And hopefully, as I said, we will get a nice set travel group tour together for that match.
With these away matches, let us know what ideas you guys have or what your preference would be as we start working with the front office how to put this together. Should we be looking at hotel room stays with packages that have tickets to the game, or should we be looking at for something local like Houston, should we just get a party bus that heads down, go straight to the stadium? We'll get some meals on the bus or something like that. Watch the game, turn around, come back. You know, what kind of packages should we be looking for?
So we're not driving late at night. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely different things we can do. So definitely reach out. Let us know what you think might be a great idea. We'll post a poll later. Get some ideas of how we want to do it for Houston. Next, we've got 2 back-to-back home games, New England and then Los Angeles. That's the 23rd. And then the 29th. So the 23rd, that's Saturday, 7:30 p.m. New England's a phenomenal watch. Obviously, they won the championship last year. They're a very good team. They're going to be missing a few key players, but I still expect them to have a very strong side this year. Yeah. They picked up some very, very high-level players from the dispersal draft. So they're going to be good. It's going to be a tough match, but I think Saturday, late March, should be okay. This might be the chilliest game we have. So it's going to be a tough one. But then you've got round 5 home against Los Angeles. Los Angeles may end up having a good side. We don't really know a whole lot other than about 4 or 5 players that have signed in this offseason. But I think they're going to have that experience of the first year when we started. Yeah. Players haven't really played much together. And they haven't had as long a preseason because of the challenges they've had just finding a stadium, getting practice facilities, everything like that. We know how that is. So I don't expect them to come in like Bulls. Like I really thought Chicago played a lot better than their record deemed last year. I don't think they're going to be quite that good this year. Miami would be my expectation for the maybe one of the best incoming teams in a while.
I think they're going to be a powerhouse. They really are.
And then we go away for round 6. So obviously we're getting lots of home games early in the season when the weather's here shouldn't be as bad, but it's going to be terrible in, for example, New England and, for example, in Utah. So we've got an away trip to Seattle in April. That could be pretty cold, but it's a Friday night, 7:30 p.m. I know that's going to be tough for people to go watch, but I think we'll make a great opportunity to have our first big away watch party here. So Friday night, get together, have dinner, watch that game. We're still working TBD on away party details. We're working with the Jackals again now that we're on the third iteration of the front office. So,
this one seems pretty solid though, and they really want to work with us.
This seems better. We're steps ahead of where we were. Baby steps every year, unfortunately. Then we're home against Utah. Them trying to get out of blizzards probably in April. So that'll be Saturday, April 13th at 7:30 p.m. I think it's a winnable game. Utah tends to play better further into the season. I think part of that is they get more home matches. They play much better at home. They're up at altitude. So I think that's a chance we can steal one from Utah. I don't think they're quite as strong as they have been the last couple of years, but wouldn't be surprised to see. Yeah, I think the level of competition is going to be up across the board.
That's true. That's true.
Then we are away at NOLA. I think another opportunity for a good away trip. NOLA obviously not as drivable as Houston. It's a Saturday 2 p.m. game. I think my guess would be is why don't we fly into NOLA on Friday, enjoy some beverages, and then go out for the game on Saturday, and then go out after the game on Saturday. People could fly out Saturday evening. People could stay again Saturday and then fly out Sunday. I think there's a good opportunity to enjoy New Orleans, which obviously is usually on the top 4 or 5 of my list of places I want to go to.
Is that end of April? Is that around? Is that spring break, Mardi Gras time?
It won't be spring break. It'll be after spring break.
And Mardi Gras is like February, I think.
I think
I never keep track of the dates, but that place is always it's always a party.
Yeah. It will have fun. It'll be a good time. And then we've got a bye in week round 9, week 8 of our season, because we don't start till the second week. So a nice break right in the middle of the season for us, which is good. Then we're away at DC in round 10. That'll be Saturday, May 4th at 5 p.m. If people want to go to DC, DC is a fun place to go. Tour around and see the sights at the Capitol. I think we'll put it on the list of items, but I don't see it as being higher on the list than some of the other locations.
Yeah,
we're home in back-to-back Houston and then Chicago. That's May 11th, Saturday, 7:30 p.m. and then a Sunday. So we get a little extended week before playing against Chicago at home. It's great. I think that's an opportunity we might be able to win one against Chicago. A little extra practice time. Sunday, 7:30 p.m., May 19th. Some schools are out by then, are they?
We'll find out.
Yeah, right.
I'm not still happens.
Sure.
Work
we just got this, so we're trying to hammer through it, and we're not sure exactly. You know
what I will say though, this is one of the big things that we brought up to the front office, and every call we had with them was the schedule, was the fact that it seemed like it almost felt like the Jackals got the short straw on every single week. It was always the worst time. It was too late in the day when it was too cold, and it was too early in the day when it was too hot. It was back and forth, and it was always the time when you couldn't bring your kids and they didn't get and blah blah blah. But on this one, it seems like there's one or two that are going to be a bit of a struggle, like this Sunday at 7:30.
Yeah.
Well, the other ones I'm seeing in here is we have Friday games, we have early afternoon Saturday games, early afternoon Sunday games. We have a much better mix this time than we did last year and the year before. So that's
I agree. Good. And then May 25th, right after that, we're away at New England at 3 p.m. Mm-hmm. The weather should be phenomenal in May in New England at 3 p.m. That sounds fun. I wish I was there for that one instead of last year. It was like 8 p.m. in March or whatever, and it was like 30 degrees outside. Miserable. Then we are home versus Seattle Sunday, June 1st, 7:30. So another Sunday night, which not preferable, but again, we're basically at the end of school. So, you don't have to worry about kiddos as much. Still, you got to go to work the next day. It's not the best situation, but a lot of this is due to we're now getting into the season, heavy into the season for XFL, and we share the stadium with XFL. We share the stadium with North Texas SC, which is the minor league team for FC Dallas. So there's going to be some nights we just can't play, and we're going to have to, figure a way to get around that, unfortunately. Then we are away at Miami, which might be pretty nice in June, early June. It's a Saturday 8 p.m. start at DRV Pink Stadium, which is the development team stadium for the Miami FC or Miami United or whatever they're calling it for their team. So fairly new stadium, should be fun. If I can get away, I might be able to sneak off for that one.
Yeah.
Who's going to argue with going to Miami? Then we are home against NOLA. That's a Friday night, 7:30 p.m. on June 14th. We're in summer. Let's get the games later. That's fine. 7:30 on a Friday is good for me. Then we're away at Utah and then away at San Diego. Away at Utah around 17, which is Saturday, June 22nd, 9 p.m. game. So, obviously it's late night here. If you make it there, it'll be an 8 p.m. game for Utah and a 7 p.m. game for San Diego. Both of those being on Saturdays, though. And weather should be fine in both those locations that time of year. So we have 2 bye weeks, week 1, week 9. We talked about who we might want to watch during those weeks. Because I think, you know what, let's not take the bye week as a week for us to take a bye as fans. Let's enjoy some of the other rugby that's out there during those bye weeks and enjoy it together. Why not?
Yeah, do a watch party, get together, have some drinks, hang out, get some good food, get to know each other a little bit more. And then watching these on the bye weeks is one where when we watch our game, we're super intent on just the screen. But watch on a bye game, we can turn around for a little bit and get to know and socialize with each other and still keep tabs on what's going on, but we could focus a little more on the den.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Seattle versus San Diego, 9 p.m. kickoff in round 1, and that would be following the Houston versus New England 8 p.m. kickoff of that same week. Those are 2 great matchups. I think Houston's going to be strong again. New England's obviously going to be strong. Seattle versus San Diego, I think, is a classic now, right? That's a great matchup. Both those teams are really good. So I think that round 1's going to be a lot of fun to get. Maybe that's part of maybe our preseason activities is before our season starts, we get together maybe with some of the Jackals players because they will be on a bye week. And they join us for some cervezas and some really good MLR rugby.
Oh, yeah.
Then looking at round 9, we got NOLA versus Houston. Obviously, I think we're rooting for NOLA there. We got to root against, everything against Houston, right? And that's a 7 p.m. game. So easy.
I'm putting another one on here right now.
You got another one for us. Utah versus San Diego. Okay,
I like this. I think you mentioned round 1, the San Diego Seattle rivalry. There is a fantastic game every year is Utah and Seattle. Both those teams are powerhouses, are amazing. Where's this one at? This one's going to be at Utah. So that'll be 7 p.m. as well.
Oh, and that there may be some weather up there that time of year.
Yeah,
we'll see.
So I think that's going to be a great one to watch. I
remember watching that Glendale Raptors or Colorado Raptors, and I think they were still Glendale Raptors when they played in the snow for the championship against Seattle. I think. Hey, rugby in the snow is fun to watch. Not very fun to play in. Fun to watch.
Right. Now let me think my time's right. So that's a 7 p.m. kickoff in Utah. So that's going to be an 8
p.m. kick
here. Yeah.
And then we've got some other upcoming events. We'll have a preseason party that's TBD right now, probably in early mid-February. As long as the weather doesn't heavily impact that. There's going to be a kit reveal party by the Jackals front office. Hoping something very similar to what was done this last year. Yeah. I think everybody really enjoyed that event. And then, we're going to be doing as a Jackal Den. We are now a proper nonprofit. Thank you. We are going to be doing our own charitable events this year. We had really discussed some of these last year, and it just didn't happen, and we were still waiting on a nonprofit status. Now that we are official, we're looking at a Kenyan rugby clothing drop. So we'll be dropping rugby boots, shorts, shirts, whatever you got, cleaned, please, for Kenyan rugby players, mostly youth rugby players in Kenya. So one of the big things we talked about as the executive group committee and board of the Jakl Den Club is that we want to do charitable events. We want to focus really on youth rugby. We'll be doing other stuff as well, and we'll have little events here and there. But, what are some events that we can do to help youth rugby, especially here locally, but anywhere where youth rugby is happening for that matter, where we can be helpful.
Yeah.
So anything that you think of, please just, drop any of us a line, and, we'll happy to consider anything. We're also looking at doing some player welcome baskets. We're working with the front office on getting names, list of names, and a list of the items that they need in those welcome baskets. We'll get those put together. We'll need all of your help to do that, and we'll get that off to them. We're also looking at doing something, James, that I know is close to your heart, which is a veterans rugby practice.
Yeah, I had this kind of idea. In the DFW and North Texas area, I'm connected to a lot of the veteran, the disabled veteran groups out here, and I think one thing that would be fantastic to help out the visibility of the Jackals in a bunch of different facets would be, what are the possibilities that we could get 15, 20, 24 or so disabled veterans up there from one of the local organizations that can come up on a practice day. Say the Jakl practice starts at noon. We can get this group up there on the pitch. Say it's a Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. It's an off day when they're practicing. They can get out on the pitch an hour beforehand, get down there with the Jackals, and just, hey, here's a little bit of learn the game and do what you can do. Can you run up and down the field? Can you learn to throw the ball? Can you try kicking it through the posts? Obviously nothing that's going to injure anybody or put anyone in jeopardy, but, a lot of fun to expand the knowledge of the game, create a stronger connection between the team and the fans. And also, a nod to bring in more of the veteran community to watch these sports and watch these games. We have veteran recognition nights. We have the first season, we had special jerseys for the military. We have military appreciation night, but let's take that one step further and try to get some of the veterans out there on the field, hanging out and throwing the ball around with the team. In this one, we're in the early talks with the front office. We're just kind of spitballing ideas and trying to narrow down what the reality of it is. Once we figure out how is it feasible? How is it feasible? How many numbers? When can it happen? Where can it happen? I'm going to start sending some feelers out to different groups. I know that in social media, we're connected a good deal to, I'm going to forget their name right now, but I'm sure they'll message me if I forget it. But one of the disabled veteran groups who puts together groups of tickets to go to the games, and also set up the flag holding group at last season. But there's also there's vet centers. There's one tribe. There's 20 or 22 kill became one tribe. There's others in the area, IAVA, that we can work with. I think it would be a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah. And then obviously we'll be doing tailgating again this year. We have yet to determine exactly where the location is and what activities. We'll be adding some stuff. There's talk of cornhole. There's talk of other games. So we'll see how that all comes together, and we'll be updating as we go. And then we have a final location already determined, which is
came out
wild.
before the schedule.
Before the schedule even released, it was leaked that it will be in San Diego at Snapdragon Stadium the weekend of August 3rd and 4th. I'm guessing it'll be the 3rd. I don't think they're going to make the same mistake doing it on a Sunday. So
it depends on how long Shaq's DJing set lasts. I think that That has a huge play into what day the game goes on.
They'll start the game at 2 a.m. on Sunday after the concert.
Right.
The
Tell you what, the
8-hour
marshmallow
concert.
better be there this year.
So I think that's exciting. San Diego, obviously, the weather's going to be fine in
Oh, it'd
August.
be beautiful, yeah.
And Snapdragon Stadium looks like a great facility. Haven't been out there yet, but I expect that will go off well. I think that the local community has really supported the Legion there very strongly in numbers. I think the championship, this may be the highest rated championship that MLR's had. So I think it was a good decision. I think it's a great decision to get it out there early. This is one of the things we've discussed is get the championship game out early so people can make plans. Get the kid out early so we can buy it and give it as gifts, for Christmas, right? Yep. Get all this stuff out there earlier. I think the biggest, failure right now MLR has is not getting this stuff out sooner. I know there was a change. Yeah, we're now going to be on Kappa. We're no longer using let me see if I can find the Paladin jerseys. We're using Kappa as the kit sponsor. So maybe some of that had issues. Once they start building some continuity, get this stuff out earlier, I think this is going to be a lot more fun.
And what was the other big change? The Sabercats put out in their letter, they made a comment on there, I think making it official that our ball manufacturer is switching from Rhino to Gilbert.
Gilbert, yeah.
Which is fantastic that Gilbert does the balls for all the leagues, I think, for some of the major championships.
Yeah, so there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of concern. I understand the concern with two teams folding, that this league is in trouble. I don't think the league's in trouble right now. The biggest concern I think everybody should have is just to remember that the people that own these teams, most of them are not billionaires. Most of them are, maybe multimillionaires or groups of millionaires or people who aren't even millionaires, trying to support rugby, professional rugby. These aren't people who are just buying a team because they see a cash grab. There's no cash grab right now in this league.
Yeah.
Most of these teams are losing millions of dollars every year. And as an owner, you have to be willing to do that to sign on. There's nobody making money right now in MLR. And I know the players know that they aren't making money. I don't think these owners are making money. There's a layer of concern about, a player union. Does it need to happen? Yes. Is it going to hurt MLR? I don't know. Maybe not. But right now, we need stability.
Yeah.
We need a league that is stabilized, that knows who its sponsors are. Their sponsors can support, being able to have us on Fox Sports or CBS, something that people are going to come across on their regular watching schedule and be like, oh, hey, rugby, interesting. Let me check this out.
Yeah.
So having the app is great. You've got free rugby for MLR, from my understanding, unless they're changing things last minute. MLR should all be free. We are paying if you want the premium. You pay, you get the premiership games.
Yep.
Which I know there's problems with that. We all understand. We're doing our best to support this. You got to get out. You've got to find a friend, bring them with you to a game. I swear to God, you come to one game, you will be hooked. Whether you continue to come out to games, maybe not. But now you're looking for rugby stuff on the internet. Ooh, I want to. Yes. Oh, there's a game on today. I'm gonna sit down and watch that.
It sounds like a silly catchphrase or a silly line, but I mean, it's the honest to God truth. Nobody comes to a rugby game and does not have fun. I mean, it doesn't matter what team you're going for. It doesn't matter if you understand. Look, I still don't understand all the rules that happen on the pitch. And I don't know why Rick yells half the time that he does. I know that a lot of the pinks out on the field are scared of him for a reason. But it is a fun environment. It's fantastic. You can't watch the game and not have fun.
Yep. So I'm excited for the season. Obviously, there are changes. Let's just say it's going to be different, but also it's still rugby. I think it's the highest level of rugby we have in the United States right now. And I think it's exciting that, we have an opportunity to go watch professional rugby. And when I go out to high school rugby practices, these boys talk about MLR. They didn't have anything to talk about 10 years ago. Now they're talking about MLR. I want to play in MLR. I want to play professional rugby. I don't think that was a dream of many players back in the day.
No.
Before MLR, that wasn't really a dream. It was just like, oh my God, I've got a contract in Premiership. How has this happened? Now it's like, I see a pathway.
Yeah.
And that pathway is also a pathway that can get you to the Eagles. So in the long run, I think this helps the Eagles. In the short run, a lot of work to do to get there.
Yeah, but absolutely doable. Absolutely doable.
Definitely. Well, I'm so glad to have this podcast with you, James. This has been great. Obviously, we'll continue to improve as we go through the season. James will join me.
Yep.
Probably get Kabui on here, Michael on here occasionally. We've got a few other members I might be getting on here. Maybe we'll just grab some fans. If you're interested in getting on the Jakl Den podcast, message us. Maybe we'll get you on. We'll see.
Yep.
So exciting. Finally, it's rugby time. We've got a schedule. We know when we're playing. We got a few more months to wait until we actually get out there. But we know the players are getting here in early January. We're so close.
Yep. Hey, thank you, everybody. Looking forward to being the president for this season. Looking forward to making everybody's experience fun and doing everything I can. If you have any ideas, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, Rick, Mike, Kabui, anybody else. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what we can do. The away parties, the watch parties, the tailgating, the nonprofit charity stuff, the swag that we're gonna have this year. We still have some of
We still got scarves.
Still have the
Message
scarves.
me. I can get you a scarf. $15.
First few games in March, 7 p.m., 7:30 p.m. in March. You might just want a scarf. They are fantastic. Well worth the $15.
Or a sweatshirt from our site. If you go to Titan Rugby and look up JAKL, you will find our merch on Titan Rugby. A plethora of items you choose from, and they ship them pretty dang fast. It was surprising how quickly I got, and the quality is really good.
It is.
Very happy with it so far. All right. Well, from James and your humble Jackal King, myself, we thank you for listening, and we will see you on the next one.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. Happy holidays.